What's up guys, and welcome to my 2026 Himeko guide. Himeko has seen a big resurgence thanks to the Dahlia reviving Break to her Break playstyle. This video is not only going to talk about Break, but also will talk about Himeko's crit build. During the sections of Lightcones and Relics, I will be mentioning which ones you should use if you're looking to build her for a crit build or a Break build, so please be sure you do pay attention. Starting it off with a full overview of Himeko's kit. Himeko's basic attack will deal fire damage based off her attack to a designated enemy. Her skill deals fire damage based off her attack to a designated enemy, and also fire damage based off her attack to targets adjacent to that enemy. Her ultimate will deal fire damage based off her attack to all enemies and will regenerate 5 extra energy for each enemy you defeat. Her talent is when an enemy target is inflicted with weakness break, Himeko gains a point of charge, maximum of 3 that also cannot be overcapped. So something important to consider when you are playing Himeko is you cannot actually overcap them, so once you hit 3, it will be hard limit until this follow-up attack is launched. If Himeko is fully charged when an ally performs an attack, Himeko will immediately perform a follow-up attack and deal fire damage based off her attack to all enemies, which will consume all charge. At the start of the battle, Himeko gains a point of charge. Her technique will create a special dimension that lasts for 15 seconds. Entering the battle within that special dimension has a 100% base chance to increase the fire damage taken by enemies by 10%. Himeko's A2 will have a 50% base chance when using an attack to inflict burn on enemy targets for 2 turns. With burn, enemies will take fire dot equal to 30% of Himeko's attack at the start of their each turn. Her A4 will deal 20% more damage to enemies afflicted with burn when using her skill, and her A6, when current HP is 80% or higher, her crit rate will increase by 15%. For her Eidolons, her E1 will increase Himeko's speed by 20% for 2 turns when you triggering her talent, being the follow-up attack Victory Rush. Her E2 deals 15% more damage to enemies whose HP percentage is currently 50% or less. Her E4, when Himeko's skill inflicts weakness break on an enemy, she will gain an extra point of charge. And her E6 will let her ultimate deal 2 extra instances of fire damage equal to 40% of the original damage to a random enemy. Before we actually do get into the actual build portion of Lightcones and Relics and so on, I do want to mention that building Himeko with crit alongside the idea of building her break is still very much valid and is usually better. So even though I'm going to mention which Lightcone is for break exclusively or crit, every single option that I mentioned that is due to crit also works on break and can honestly outperform the break options as well. It will not be the other way around though, because if you are running break, the break Lightcone would only really be functioning on the break stuff and not really the crit stuff unless it is attack related, and to an extent also speed related. Now for her best Lightcone options, Himeko does have a ton of options you are working with. Overall, the best for crit is going to be the Before Dawn or Jingwon's signature Lightcone. Again, keep in mind what I did say in the disclaimer, because it is crit, it also works really well with break and honestly can outperform the break options as well. It increases crit damage by 36%, increases damage dealt by wearer's skill and ultimate by 18%, and after the wearer uses their skill or ultimate, they will gain Somnus Corpus. Upon triggering a follow-up attack, you will consume the Somnus Corpus and increase damage by follow-up attacks by 48%. Himeko does have the ability to access this to the full potential. You're building crit regardless of the build. Even with full break, you do want to focus on crit. She does do damage on her skill and also ultimate, so that is both getting an increase to damage, and to top it all off, a 48% increase to follow-up damage when you have Somnus Corpus and consuming it, which she does have access to a follow-up attack. So you can get a big increase to damage there. While these are not directly increasing super break damage, this is increasing her actual form of damage and is a very, very powerful option on Himeko, if not her best one. This next option is exclusive to if you are running break, and that is Rappa's signature Lightcone, providing 60% break effect. When entering battle, immediately regenerates 30 energy. After the wearer uses ultimate, obtains a Raiton, and after 2 basic attacks, advances the wearer's action by 50% and will remove Raiton. And after the wearer uses ultimate, resets the Raiton. As you can see, there's no form of crit or anything here, which is why it's mainly exclusive to break thanks to the break effect. Entering battle provides you a big energy increase that allows you to ult really quickly, which can potentially help you break especially smaller sided enemies. This Lightcone will require you to play smart and weave in some basic attacks in order to obtain the ability to consume Raiton to gain the 50% action advance. So when you are using this Lightcone, be sure to account for the fact that you do need to use 2 basic attacks to gain the action advance. It does lead to less energy gained, but when used smartly, it can be a big asset to gain 50% action advance, which is very, very good and can result in more output overall. So for a pure break build, this would be one of the best options to use. The other pure break option that I'm going to mention, which is also honestly the last one you should use for purely break, is the After the Charmony Fall, which will increase break effect by 28%, and after the where it uses ultimate, increases speed by 8% for 2 turns, and at S5 it's a 56% increase to break effect with a 16% increase to speed. Very simple Lightcone. Break effect increase is going to be good for break damage and such, and speed is one of another valuable source for any form of break characters, as they want to act as much as possible to continuously break enemies. This Lightcone is very simple yet effective for a pure break Himeko. If using Himeko in pure fiction, Night on the Milky Way is a great option as well. This is going to be a one you can use on crit, break, and so on. Every enemy on the field will increase the wearer's attack by 9% up to 5 stacks. When an enemy target is inflicted with weakness break, damage dealt by the wearer increases by 30% for 1 turn. At S1, you were getting up to a 45% increase to the wearer's attack just by having 5 enemies on the field, which is going to be great for just her base source of damage. And dealing weakness break, which is going to be a playstyle you are if you are even running just pure crit, if you're running weakness break especially. So gaining access to a 30% damage dealt increase is going to be nice and relatively easy for Himeko. The reason this is mainly one you would use in pure fiction only is because at all times there will be 5 enemies. In Memory of Chaos or especially Apocalyptic Shadow, frequently there is not going to be 5 enemies on the field, which will downgrade the performance of this Lightcone due to the fact that every 1 less enemy is 9% less attack. So if there's only 2 enemies, you're only going to be getting 18% attack. If there's 3, you get 27% attack, and so on. To get the full effect of this Lightcone, you will need 5 enemies on the field, and the only place to have that reliably is pure fiction. Not to say this Lightcone isn't usable in other modes, it is just relatively not recommended, but if it is the best option you can use, definitely feel free to use it. Genius Repose for crit or hybrid build is great, providing the wearer a 16% increase to the wearer's attack, and when the wearer defeats an enemy, wearer's crit damage will increase by 24% for 3 turns, and at S5 it is 32% attack with a 48% increase to crit damage. As I did mention with attack, it is great for all forms of damage, mainly the base ones that when you're not accounting for crit is going to be what she scales off of. To get the full effect of the Lightcone, you will need to kill an enemy on the side. It doesn't have to be an enemy on the side, it could be a main elite enemy as well. It's just usually you'd kill them on the side to get the easiest way to stack this up. Once you do kill an enemy, for 3 turns you will have a 48% increase to crit damage, which is going to be very strong. So you definitely want to make sure you are able to get the effect of this Lightcone, because without it, it is just a 32% increase to attack, which isn't bad, but you're missing out on a lot of performance with an extra 48% increase to crit damage. So when everything is active, this Lightcone is very potent. The Herder Shop Lightcone is also a nice option for a crit or hybrid. Increases the wearer's attack by 8%. After using an attack for each enemy target hit, additionally increases the wearer's attack by 4%. That stacks up to 5 times and will last until the next attack. If hitting 3 or more enemy targets, this unit's speed increases by 8% for 1 turn, and at S5 it's 12% attack, each additional stack is 8%, and the speed increase can be 16%. Himeko's all attacks besides basics, so her skill is going to be Blast, her ultimate is AoE, and her follow-up is AoE, so the last part providing speed is going to be able to be always utilized, assuming there are 3 or more enemies on the field. You get a free 12% attack regardless when this Lightcone is at S5, and then hitting enemies can further increase the buff. Hitting 5 enemies gives you up to a 40% additional increase to attack, which can be very good, providing a total of 52% increase to attack when you account for the base increase to the wearer, and then every stack above that. And speed, regardless if you're a crit build, hybrid build, or just break build, it's going to be good, which makes this Lightcone a very strong option to use as well. Another option is the Battle Pass Lightcone. Today is another peaceful day, which will increase the damage of the wearer based off their max energy. Each point of energy will increase damage by 0.20%. Up to a maximum of 160 energy will be taken into account, and at S5 it becomes 0.40%. Himeko does have a 120 energy requirement, so 160 for the full effect is not going to be achieved for this, but it's a very simple Lightcone. You put it on her, and for the entire battle you just have a damage increase. So for a hybrid or crit build, this is going to be an option you can use. Not as strong as the other options when their effects are active, but it is something you can use just to have free damage for the entire battle. Another good free-to-play option is the Day the Cosmos Fell, especially if you are pairing her with the Dahlia. Increases the wearer's attack by 16%. When the wearer uses an attack and has attacked at least 2 enemies with the corresponding weakness, which in this case would be fire, the wearer's crit damage will increase by 20% for 2 turns, and at S5 it's 24% increase to attack and 40% to crit damage. So you can use this build for a general crit build as well if they do have enough fire weakness in the battle. The reason I mentioned the Dahlia is because the Dahlia with her ultimate is able to implant Fire Weakness to everyone. So you are able to practically force the requirement as you are implanting the Fire Weakness, and then you just hit 2 or more enemies, which, as I mentioned, skill, ultimate, and follow-up tech from Himeko is hitting multiple targets to get the effect. So this would mainly be a focus on a hybrid build where you're building, crit, break effect, so on and so forth, alongside a break team. 24% attack, again, great for her base damage as she scales off it, and now you can get up to a 40% increase to crit damage, which is going to be very nice. When it comes to relic sets, the primary one you want to focus on is still the Grand Duke set, even if you are running break, hybrid, or just purely crit. Obviously for hybrid and purely crit it's better, and even for break you still can use this. 2-piece increases damage up by follow-up attacks by 20%, 4-piece when the wearer uses a follow-up attack increases the wearer's attack by 6% for every time the follow-up attack will deal damage, stacks to 8 times, lasts to 3 turns, and is removed the next time the wearer uses a follow-up attack. So the 2-piece will increase her follow-up attack damage, and the 4-piece will increase it further. And her follow-up attack hits many times, and you are able to get the full stack effect of it. So every time it goes, you are just constantly looping that, and then her follow-up attack will be the main form of damage she is dealing for every kind of playstyle. That is why the 4-piece Grand Duke set is still the one you want to use. Now, if you want to fully commit on the break side, you can use 4-piece Iron Cavalry with the 2-piece increasing break effect by 16%. 4-piece if the wearer's break effect is 150% or higher, break damage to the enemy target ignores 10% of their defense, and with 250% or higher break effect, super break damage dealt to enemy target will additionally ignore 15% of their defense. The 2-piece break effect is going to be something you can use. The 4-piece will require you to build a significant amount of break effect on Himeko. As I did mention in my disclaimer, I don't fully recommend going completely break. While it still does work, it's still just better to commit to a hybrid, but 4-piece is usable, but the downside is when using 4-piece Iron Cavalry, you still will just need to build a bunch of break effect. You are probably not going to get full requirements outside of battle, and is mainly something you are going to need to make up in battle with break effect buffs from characters like Dahlia, Fugue, so on. But it is a usable option when committing fully to break Himeko. Past that, it would be 2-piece. For crit/hybrid, it's 2-piece of any of the crit sets, and combine that with 2-piece other Grand Duke sets. So you can do 2-piece Scholar, 2-piece World Remaking Deliverer, or 2-piece Wave Shredder with 2-piece Grand Duke for the follow-up attack damage increase from the 2-piece. Or you can do 2-piece of any of those mentions and do 2-piece of the Firesmith for the 2-piece fire damage increase. I am not going to recommend doing 2-piece speed and 2-piece break at all like I could for some break characters. I do not recommend doing that at all. For Planar Ornaments, you do have a few options. You can run Dern on her since she does follow-up attack quite a bit herself, since that's her main source of damage, so she is able to stack this up quite frequently. When an ally uses a follow-up attack, the wearer gains a stack of merit that stacks up to 5 times, with each stack increasing the damage from the follow-up attack by 5%, and reaching 5 stacks will additionally increase the wearer's crit damage by 25%. So for a hybrid or crit build, this is the one you are mainly going to use. Again, she stacks it up herself pretty frequently, but on a break team with the Dahlia has access to a follow-up attack as well, which can help you further stack this up when it comes to speed. But you are not strictly required to run a follow-up attack character with her. Again, she can stack this herself. It's just the more follow-up characters on the team, the faster you can stack it, giving you up to a 25% increase to follow-up attack damage, and then an additional 25% increase to the wearer's crit damage. So for the best bang for your buck, this is going to be the one to use. Inards Assault also works for crit/hybrid. The 2-piece will increase the wearer's crit rate by 8%, 4-piece reaching 50% or higher crit rate. The damage dealt by the wearer's ultimate and follow-up attack will increase by 15%. Free 8% crit rate, reaching 50% or higher crit rate should not be a problem. And then you just get a free increase to ultimate and follow-up attack damage. Again, main source of damage comes from the follow-up attack, but now your ultimate is also getting an increase, so a simple yet effective ornament to use. Strictly for break, you can use the Forge set, especially when you are pairing her with the Dahlia. 6% speed and 40% break effect when attacking someone with fire weakness for a turn. So either you ensure the battle has fire weakness so you can stack this. You only need one enemy on the field to be able to have fire weakness to stack it. So you can be in pure fiction. Let's say one enemy on the side has a fire weakness. You use the follow-up tech. You hit 4 people that don't have fire weakness. You hit the one that does. You still will get the effect. Or, on the flip side, you use it with the Dahlia, she implants fire weakness, you're able to permanently keep this effect up. So for a pure break build, you can use this because the speed is nice to just build her faster for more turns, and 40% break effect is also nice. Now for the relic stat details. For the body's main stat, you are primarily always going to use crit rate, no matter if you're doing a crit, hybrid, or break build. Himeko not really a character that gets a bunch of crit rate access through traces, through specific traces and such as well, so crit rate is usually always going to be the one you do go. For the feat, this can depend. You could either do attack percent or speed to reach breakpoint if you are doing speed. Attack percent is better for damage and would mainly come from trying to get a follow-up attacks via your teammates attacking. So let's say on a hybrid build on a break team with the Dahlia, Linksha, and also Fugue, you can build her to have speed herself, where you are able to reach breakpoint through speed buffs in battle and stuff and speed boots, where she herself will be able to get enough attacks, get more energy, and also be able to break more herself as well. It will do less damage than attack percent boots, but you will be able to break more to get more follow-up attacks and more energy and such. On the flip side, if you run attack percent and completely ignore speed, you will get more damage and will mainly be more reliant on your team to break, such as Fugue ultimate, Dahlia follow-up attacks, so on and so forth. And then on crit-sided builds, if you are running her as a crit DPS, you can run hyper-speed action advancers such as Sunday, Sparkle, or Bronia. So if you value your teammates breaking to get more follow-up attacks, then you can run attack percent. But if you want her to get more actions so she can help herself get break and more energy to just break more enemies on the side, then you can run speed and try to hit breakpoint. For the orb, you want to run fire damage, and for the link rope, attack percent is always going to be better. For a pure break build, you can use break effect, but I will expand a bit more on why I recommend attack percent rope even if running her as a break character once I am done explaining the substat portion. Now for the substats, if you are running her on speed boots, be sure she reaches at least 134 speed in battle in order to hit breakpoint. If she's able to hit 134 by herself outside of battle, then that's even better because the more speed will just be better. However, if you are running attack percent boots, then completely ignore this step. As a hybrid crit build, you obviously would be focusing on crit rate, crit damage, and attack percent. If you are running her on a break team, you want to also get break effect rolls. For pure break, you still can get crit rate, crit damage, attack percent, but mainly also be focusing on break effect. And for the best one, in my opinion, being hybrid, you really focus on all of them the same. Getting a good crit ratio, mainly just having consistent crit, a good attack stat, and break effect rolls will no longer be wasted for you. And by a hybrid build, it would mainly just be running her as a regular build on a break team. So for crit rate, just getting a consistent 70 to 80% would be good and doable. If you can get more than that, then that's even better. If depending on your team, if you have crit rate buffs and such, that can also help. Crit damage, ideally just get it as high as possible. Attack stats as well, just get it as high as possible. 2600 or above is fine. If you can get it to 3k or higher, even that is going to be very, very strong. And if you are running a hybrid build or break build, of course, focusing on break effect. If you are running 4-piece Iron Cavalry, then of course, at least getting 150% outside of battle would be a good part to get you to 250% or higher in battle. If you are running it, you just want to make sure you hit 250% break effect in battle so you get the full effect. Now, before getting into team building as the last part of this video, I want to have a small section as a little personal opinion on how you should build her when you are going about building Himeko. I've mentioned multiple ways to build her, being the crit build, the hybrid build, or the break build, and I've obviously been specifying what you should or what is ran for what role. In my humble opinion, I fully recommend you run a hybrid total Himeko. By that, I mean you run a solid crit ratio, you get good attack rolls, while also not completely disregarding break effect. The absolute best way, in my opinion, is building her that hybrid way, so getting crit rate, getting your crit damage, getting attack percent, and getting break effect, and running her on the break team. That is, in my opinion, the absolute best way you can play Himeko. Running her as a full crit build on a crit team, while does work, is not going to be as good in my opinion. And also fully focusing on break, even being used on a break team, is also just not going to be as good. While I'm not saying running her as a full crit build on a crit team is going to be completely unusable, it is still usable. It's just not going to be as good as a hybrid team on a break team. And then focusing fully on break might do you more bad than good. So again, in my personal opinion, I do personally recommend you run a hybrid build focusing on crit rate, crit damage, attack percent, while also getting break effect rolls. And this would of course be something like running the follow-up set on something like Sasada or Dern as well. Or you can mix and match it by doing something like the follow-up set, at least to focus on that side for the hybrid, and also running Forge to balance it out. Now for some general team building. As I did mention, building her hybrid and running her alongside break is going to be the best. So the team would be Himeko herself, the Dahlia, which I don't have the Dahlia, so I'm not going to put a character here, so pretend the second character is the Dahlia. Your third slot would usually go to Fugue, especially if you do have E1 Fugue. E1 Fugue would be best for every kind of break team. And your last slot would go to your sustain. So on these break teams, usually always either Linksha or also just Gallagher. In my case, I'll just put Linksha on the team, so it would look something like this. Again, Himeko Himeko, this missing slot would be the Dahlia, Fugue, especially if you have Fugue E1, and then your Sustain. If you don't have Fugue, you can also still use someone like Harmony MC. I'm not going to put MC on here because mine is set to Remembrance, but pretend this is Harmony MC, which actually I can just switch paths here. Boom, just like that. So I'm just going to put her right here. So you could use Harmony MC instead. Or you could even put someone like Ruan Mei. Ruan Mei also still works fine on these break teams, so something like that. But let's say you have Fugue on here instead and you want to run Sustain list, it would be Himeko, the Dahlia, Fugue, and the last slot would be those two I mentioned, either Harmony MC or Ruan Mei. So it would look something like this. Again, Himeko, Dahlia, Fugue, and then Ruan Mei or Harmony MC. That is kind of how you want to go about running the break teams. Now, what if you mainly just want to run her on a pure crit build, where you're not focusing on super break or anything, you're just going full crit? You can run her as a base speed with a hyperspeed support or a -1 setup, it depends on you. If you want to go that route, again, it would just be one of the action advancers. If base speed, you can use Sparkle, but if -1 or anything, you can use Sunday or also just Bronya. Depends on your availability. Usually Sunday is the best for this, so it would be hyperspeed or -1. He works with both, so does Bronya. Another slot can go to someone like Robin. Robin works great, especially with older characters. Last slot would go to your Sustain. Again, really just depends on who you have. You could use Hyacinth. She's just a fantastic Sustain to go in teams. You could use Lingsha outside of break teams. Use her, Wopo, even someone like Danheng as well. Danheng is going to be one of the best options because of his attack buffing, so he can go on the team. Just depends on who you do have. So about for different options, instead of Robin, you could use another AoE buffer, such as someone like Tribi. Tribi can go on here as well. Instead of Sunday, I already mentioned, you could use Bronya if doing a -1 setup or even a hyperspeed, and for specifically hyperspeed, you could use Sparkle since she would be built with 160 plus speed anyways. And then Sustains, we've already went through that. Now, another team you can use is actually strictly using Himeko as the Air Edition sub DPS, and you can probably already guess what that means. That would be for the Herda. I don't have the Herda, so I'm just going to keep Himeko on there, and I'm just going to put regular Herda on here. So pretend regular Herda is the Herda. So the main team would be the Herda herself, Himeko as the sub Air Edition DPS, and then usually Tribi would go on the slot because Tribi works super good with the Herda teams. And last slot would go to your Sustain again. Danheng is one of the best Sustains for that team, if not the best. You can use Hyacinth as well. You can even use someone like a Venturian. Use Lingsha. Again, just use whatever best option you do have. But in my case, I'll just use Danheng here. And then just like I mentioned for subbing out, if you don't have Tribi, you can throw on Robin. If you're really down bad on options, you can use someone like Ruan Mei, so on and so forth. That does wrap up the full 2026 updated Himeko guide on how you do want to build and use her. I do hope you found this video helpful. If you did, dropping a like would be greatly appreciated. If you're new to my channel or you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell icon for future videos like this, along with all other types of style content. Check out the description to check out my Archives channel, and I'll see you later. Peace out.